what I'm expecting is the president to speak to the very purpose of the state of the nation, all right, as provided in the constitution, um, so that on a day like that day, the president should speak about um, not only about the policies in place, but how he has been governing this country, managing the affairs of this country and the resources of this country, and what has been the outcome, so that it is not just about highlighting what successes have been registered, but also what have been the challenges, and to be very honest and direct in that manner, um, so that he can lay out the challenges in detail, um, so we understand the nature of these challenges and therefore what solutions um, he is thinking in terms of addressing those challenges and you know um, going forward to next year. Uh, the fact remains the past year has been a difficult year for Gambians. Cost of living has been high. Issues of security, service delivery, whether it's healthcare, education, electricity, but also there has been serious issues of corruption, government inefficiency, abuse of office. These are all issues under his watch, and these are all issues he should address and tell us as Gambians what he understands the nature of these issues and therefore how he intends to address them. But at the same time, also to speak to the issue of law enforcement, because part of these problems is a lack of law enforcement or limited law enforcement. That is why um, corruption or inefficiency or abuse, disregard of the law takes place. So the issue of accountability is important. So, this is what I expect him to speak to Gambians, not just to give us technical, narratives, to give us official narratives, as what is indicated in project documents, all right, but to speak to Gambians heart to heart, all right. Yes, and I hope he would do that. Would have the courage and the honesty to have that kind of conversation. Yeah, so I think my thoughts about the oil issue is there is limited transparency. And so that will be one of the issues I would want him to clarify. I have seen the press statement that the Ministry of Petroleum issued, and they didn't say anything new or anything interesting. But what we know is the idea of oil. It is government itself under Jame, from starting from there that they said we have oil. There are prospects for oil. Um, they created a ministry for petroleum. Um, they created a petroleum house. In fact, built a big building called it Petroleum House. Um, so it raised the question, therefore, why was that done if there's no petroleum? And now they're saying there's no petroleum, but then ask the question, then why don't we close the Ministry of Petroleum since there's no petroleum? And seek other ways how to invest in the whole process. That's a National Petroleum Commission. Maybe we just need only a commission, not a whole ministry. So we need transparency beyond what he has been saying that because the issue is not Senegal is stealing our oil. I mean, we need to speak to what is in our A1, A2, or till A6 blocks. What has happened or had happened, with FAR, for example, and so on. So I hope there is transparency. But beyond the oil issue, yeah, we currently have the assets, the German assets. That's also another fundamental issue, exactly, that he needs to talk about. It's unfortunate that until now he has failed to address this matter as he should, because it was his government that set up the German Commission and that took charge of German assets. and sold German assets, most of it, some by the commission, of course, but the commission submitted a report to them. And so it is the government's responsibility, his responsibility, to make sure they have documented everything, and so also share information with Gambians. And so to wait until 5 years later, only for us to realize all of these things, I think it's a huge indictment against his government and his leadership. So I would expect that the State of the Nation address, he will speak honestly to this matter as well. Some of us have called that he should have established an independent inquiry, presidential inquiry, to look at what happened with the assets after the Jana Commission. He has failed to do that, and of course we know there's a parliamentary inquiry. But I mean, that is also within the purview or the authority of the parliament to do that. That does not excuse or substitute for a presidential inquiry. So for me, he is addressing the matter in a half-hearted way, and we need a lot more than what is happening. Because I mean, um, it was his job. It is his job. I mean, as I said, he set up the Joint Commission to do a job, set up a ministerial commission to do a job, and this whole matter is under the purview of the government. Um, in the first place, they failed to do what they were supposed to do. This is why we are in this situation in the first place. So, as a president, he should take personal responsibility to correct what went wrong. And so, he doesn't have to wait for the parliament to do their job or anyone else. He should take responsibility, to correct his own mess. And so I expect that that is what he's going to do. But so far, he has done nothing. But on their part, I hope they will also look at this matter thoroughly, objectively, and make sure they are transparent about it, and ensure that the process is open in a way that it allows for participation, and of course to make sure every issue is considered, nothing is pushed aside, um, so that we get to the bottom of this. So that is what I expect the parliament to do. And of course, we are watching them to see what they do. Um, but notwithstanding, still there's a concern because we have seen parliamentary inquiries, how they are done, and then the issues that normally come out. Yeah, so we hope the parliament would learn from its previous experiences to make sure this does not go in the same way. So we'll be watching them. Yeah, so it's about law enforcement. We've seen the incidences of armed robberies, for example, but other law enforcement issues, murders, even what would be considered, suicides, but also petty crime in the society. In terms of armed robberies, I think even got to a point where we saw the CDS of the army giving a shoot to kill order to soldiers. So what does this mean, really? I think we cannot just look at it in terms of the police, law enforcement, in terms of what the military is doing, but it also has to do with the social, economic, and the political environment. Because security doesn't happen in an isolated way, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. A lot of factors are connected. So that whilst it is important that we equip the police in any way, possible to better, ensure they are effective, combating the crime. It is also important to look at what other factors generate crime. Why would people go into crime? And that has to deal with, the poor social and economic realities of the society. So I think the government needs to look at these issues from security from that perspective. How do we make sure that we deal with, create opportunities? Because when you look at it, it goes in two ways. There's one or maybe three ways. There's a security element in terms of crime, okay, but we are also seeing the issue of drugs, substance abuse, all right, but we are also seeing incidents of backward. All of these are indicating serious social economic problems. So, how much can we equip the police when you look at it? So that at the end of the day, um, whilst we need to equip the police, but to realize that that in itself cannot address crime and the security situation in the country, it is very important, primary, that indeed we create a kind of social economic conditions in this country that would, limit the incidence of crime. So I hope he will speak to that. Certainly, any government, every government in the world has, you know, is providing social economic services anyway. I mean, they will tell you we have built schools, we have built hospitals, we've created programs and projects for this and that. Um, but yeah, we've been doing that since independence. And the incidence of poverty, of deprivation, of unemployment, of high cost of living also continues to rise. So maybe there's a need to go back again and look at, actually, is this approach we are taking, is this viable? Because it is not helping to address the social economic conditions of society. Yeah, I think our agriculture is hugely under resourced, but also mismanaged, and there's sort of corruption in terms of Ministry of Agriculture, and neglect. Once again, um, when you look at our lands and our population, all the opportunities are there for Ghana to be a food self-sufficient nation, because we have fertile land, we have a lot of water, and we have the population in any way you can imagine, that would go into agriculture or that is involved in agriculture, whether men and women, young and old, and so on. So what has been lacking since independence is the lack of strategic, consistent, and support to agriculture. And until now, we are facing those problems, whether it's fertilizer or buying of the lots of farmers and other implements and so on. Storage, transportation, marketing. These are all issues in our agriculture. We just got out of Tabaski, for example. We look at livestock, because we need to look at agriculture in a broad sense. So we look at livestock, and it's unbelievable that at this time, up to this time, when it is Tabaski, Gambians have to rely on livestock from abroad. So it raises the question: what has government and the Minister of Agriculture been doing? We have a Department of Livestock Services. What have they been doing to build and develop the livestock sector of this country? Which has hundreds of thousands of livestock, goats, sheep, cattle, pigs, and why have these livestock not been transformed into a source of wealth and food and employment, and development in general for this country? So these are all issues that I hope the president would think seriously about it and see what mechanisms henceforth are they going to put in place. You know. Yeah, I mean, I have spoken about that already, to say it is an unjust, discriminatory provision in the Criminal Offences Act. I think we should all agree that insult, for whatever reason, by whoever against whoever, is not, should not be encouraged. It's bad, and so it should not exist in our society. This is what we have been taught in our homes, in our culture, our religion, even the law. In terms of human rights, people should not insult each other, because it is degrading the other person, it is dehumanizing the other person, it is trying to, impugn or, the dignity of other person. So insult is completely condemned in any way. So that when we get to this point and we need to address it, it needs to be addressed in a holistic way. But to do it in the way it is done in this law, to say it is only unlawful or a criminal offense if you insult the parent of a public officer, um, and then um, and not the rest of society, that for me is problematic. I mean, and secondly, even that insult, that parental insult itself, you have not defined it. All right. What is parental insult? You have to define it, because if you don't define it, it can also be abused, so that you can make a certain kind of criticism or opinion about the president or any public official, and the police can take that to be parental insult. And so it is left to the discussion of anyone to think whether this is insult or not insult. And this is important in terms of democracy and good governance, in terms of human rights, because our constitution guarantees freedom of expression. And the freedom of expression is such that it also includes expressing certain ideas or opinions that somebody may find offensive, but it's not necessarily a criminal or unlawful. All right. So that also we have to bear in mind, so that in the end, this provision cannot be used to therefore stifle freedom of expression, which is important for transparency, for accountability, for good governance. Yeah. So that is a big problem, and of course, the law itself is so inadequate because it doesn't talk about, okay, if a public official now insults a non-public official, a private citizen, what will happen? Yeah, so the provision, section 107, it specifies who applies. It's the president, vice president, ministers, National Assembly members, and public officials, people working in government. If you insult their mother, I mean their parents, you are liable. I mean, you can be arrested and you can be sent to court and you can be jailed. But if you insult the mother of, say, the Imam Ratib of Banjo or the Bishop of Banjo, if you insult, let's say, Usain Dabo's father or Halifa Salah's mother, all right, or if you insult Jalba Kwate's uncle, or if they insult, your auntie or my auntie, no law has been broken there. So it doesn't apply to people like you and me, political leaders, imams, priests, men and women in our towns and villages who are not holding public office. So that is why it is discriminatory. And as I said, it also did not say, okay, but public officials also are hereby banned from insulting the parents of citizens. All right. So meaning a public official can insult my mother, and if I insult his mother back, I will be arrested, but he will not be arrested. So that shows you the unfair, the unjust, discriminatory nature of this provision, which is really disappointing. Yeah, I think people should be interested in this SONA. It is important. Anytime when the president speaks, I think it is important citizens listen and subject the speech to a critical review, and express their opinions about it. Because the SONA is also an accountability exercise, because it's about the president coming to render account of how he has been managing this country over the past 12 months and how he will manage this country, in the next 12 months. So it's an accountability exercise. So we need to record what he said that happened and what will happen, and so that we can hold him to account. And that speaks to the general perspective of citizen participation. So what I would want to tell citizens is the good governance of this country, the promotion, the protection of democracy in this country, the promotion and the protection of human rights in this country, and the attainment of national development is not the job of the president alone or the parliament or public officials. In fact, we the citizens have a greater role to play, because the president, we elect him, we pay taxes to the government. All right. At the end of the day, they should deliver services to us, and and protect and promote our rights. Now, for them to be able to do that, even though the laws are there to determine how they should do that, but our job is to watch them, to monitor them, to check them, to make sure that they are performing their functions efficiently, effectively, and delivering quality services to us, which is available, accessible, and affordable. And we cannot make that happen until we are interested in what they say, what they do. We'll hear or listen to what they say and they, or do not say, and we get up to speak, to protest, to go to court, and other lawful and peaceful nonviolent means to make sure they are on that path. That is the duty given by the Constitution to every citizen. All right. And so that is what I want to tell citizens. Um, don't listen to the president and then end of story. Not everything the president say is true or false. Verify, question and analyze it and take a position. Don't, as a citizen, you should take a position on every issue, particularly as long as it is coming from the government. Right. You are not on the sidelines. You are not, outside. You are not a stranger. You are not an alien in this country. So you got to take a position. You either agree or disagree or provide your own ideas and so on. So that's what I want to share with the citizens.